Hello, welcome to Blood Clot Tube. Here is today's newspaper, Tuesday, June the 24th, 2025. Experts issue warning that COVID vaccine may trigger deadly brain inflammation after man was struck down by just one jab. So just one vaccination he had, and that was enough to trigger deadly brain inflammation. A healthy man was struck by a life-threatening inflammation of his brain and spinal cord after just one dose of a COVID vaccine. The unnamed 60-year-old sought help from medics in Paris, France, after suddenly developing walking problems and mental confusion 4 weeks after receiving a dose of AstraZeneca's COVID jab. Brain scans revealed he was suffering from meningoencephalitis, a life-threatening swelling of the brain and the tissue surrounding the brain and spinal cord, according to doctors who shared his story, in a medical journal. While the condition can be caused by health problems like an infection or blood cancers, analysis of the man's brain tissue showed no signs of any viruses or other disease that could be responsible. This led medics to believe, maybe to conclude, that the man's swelling was caused by his COVID vaccination, specifically his immune system overreacting to the jab. They then diagnosed him with post-vaccinal, that means after a vaccine, encephalitis, dangerous brain swelling following a jab. The man, who suffered 2 bouts of brain swelling while in the care of the medical team, was treated with special drugs to suppress his immune system for 6 months until his symptoms were under control. Doctors who reported the case, JAMA Neurology, said the man had made an almost full recovery 3 years later. So I suppose that took him 3 years to fully recover. But has he fully recovered? No. However, they noted he continued to suffer from ongoing mild problems with his attention span. The patient originally showed significant improvement after being treated when he first suffered symptoms 4 weeks after getting the jab. However, he returned with the same walking and mental confusion problems 3 months later, which is when medics conducted the brain biopsy and put him on 6 months of medication. Medics said the relapse showed the importance of sustained drug treatments for such patients, as well as prompt diagnosis and aggressive treatment. Encephalitis after COVID vaccines has been reported before. There are a few mistakes here with subject-verb agreement. I think that the writer believes that the noun closest to the verb is the one which is the subject, but that's just not true. It's encephalitis which has been reported before. Encephalitis after COVID vaccines has been reported before, and so don't just assume that the nearest noun is the one which is the subject of the verb. It's not vaccines that have been reported before. It's encephalitis after a vaccine which has been reported before. We'll see a very similar mistake a few paragraphs down. So, a study published in 2023 on 65 patients found AstraZeneca was the most common vaccine brand linked to the reaction, accounting for over 1/3 of cases. So 2/3 of cases were from the other ones. The authors of that report highlighted that what exactly causes vaccine-induced encephalitis to occur in some patients is not yet understood. However, they added that the majority of cases have made a full recovery. That should say the majority of cases. While the team behind the most recent report did not specify when the man received the COVID jab, it is likely to have been in 2021. And it's only now, 4 years later, that you're allowed to know about the side effects in this particular case. That's interesting, isn't it? So France, alongside many European countries, suspended and then restricted the use of the British-designed jab in early 2021. Yes, I remember making a video about it and listing all 17 or 18 countries on my whiteboard, and that video was immediately banned because you weren't allowed to know about it. This followed reports of a small number of patients suffering an extremely rare but potentially deadly blood clotting reaction, and yet still you were encouraged to take it, and so were your children and your relatives. called thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. This is a medical condition where a person suffers blood clots along with a low platelet count. Platelets typically help the blood to clot. The complication, missed in initial safety trials but now listed as a potential side effect of the jab. Well, everybody knew about it in March 2021, which is why you can watch my video about that, which was banned from YouTube, which was made in March 2021, so everybody knew, even Mr. Skype Lessons knew. The complication has also been previously called vaccine-induced immune thrombocytopenia. Lots and lots of very complicated words. Health officials first identified cases of VITT linked to AstraZeneca's jab in Europe as early as March 2021, but you weren't allowed to know about it, just over 2 months after the vaccine was first deployed in the UK. However, it wasn't until April, this is completely false, that year that evidence became clear enough that the jab started to be restricted. It was in March, which is why you can watch this video made in March, in which I speak exactly about all of this. Officials first stopped dishing out the jab to people under the age of 30. They missed some, though, and those ones like Jack Last, well, he was 27, they missed him, even though he shouldn't have been allowed it because he was under 30, and he died. So as the vaccine still worked against COVID, it was deemed worth giving to older Britons who are at greater risk of death or injury from falling ill with the virus. Well, I hope they told all of those older people about the blood clots, because that would be making sure that everybody had informed consent. And you need consent to take a dangerous pharmaceutical, and so people have to be told about all of the dangers. About 50 million doses of the AstraZeneca jab were dished out in the UK in total, so just 50 million. Official data shows at least 81 Brits, British people, have died from blood clot complications linked to the AstraZeneca jab, but we don't know how many linked to Pfizer or Moderna. According to figures collected by the UK's drug watchdog, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, a further unconfirmed number have been injured and or disabled. Further COVID vaccine rollouts have either minimised use of the AstraZeneca jab and or phased it out. That's a nice phrasal verb, meaning to completely get rid of something, but slowly over a period of phases. So they've phased it out entirely in favour of alternatives like those made by rival pharma giants Pfizer and Moderna. With health officials not ordering any more doses, this effectively means the jab has all but been withdrawn in the UK. So it hasn't been withdrawn, but it has almost been withdrawn. While rare reactions to the jab reactions have been linked, and I think again they've looked at the jab and that's singular, and so they've gone for the jab has, but it's the reactions that have been linked to deaths and injuries. So that should say have, while rare reactions to the jab have been linked to deaths and injuries, AstraZeneca's shot is credited with saving some 6 million hypothetical lives globally during the COVID pandemic. And here is a lady who worked for the BBC who sadly died after a vaccine. Okay, let's leave it there for today. I hope that was informative, and I hope to see you all soon in the next English class.